Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm super excited to be here with you all. Quite a lot of people actually joined in. This is going to be a fantastic session for us. We have some fantastic guests that I'm really excited about that are going to be joining me in a minute. But welcome to the webinar. It's so great to be here with you all. If this is your first time at a GitGuardian webinar, please know that there are prizes to be won. We try and keep this as interactive as possible. So how do you win prizes? Well, those that are participating in the webinar, those that are asking questions, running in the polls, participating in the conversation, you guys are eligible to win some great prizes. Now, what the prize will be will depend on where in the world you are. Sometimes it can be vouchers, sometimes it can be gifts, sometimes it can be gift cards. So they're going to leave that mystery prizes for you all there. But please make sure you participate in the chat. And here is your first opportunity to participate. Where in the world are you? I love that our webinars actually get a pretty global reach out there. So let us know in the chat where you're tuning from. Who knows? Maybe you'll find someone close by that's interested in the same things. So I'll start. I'm tuning in from Paris. If you're in Paris in France, which is a bit of a chaotic at the moment. There are, as you're probably aware, there's a little something called the Olympics happening at the moment. We're about to start on Friday, so yeah, it's all happening here in Paris, to say the least. But if you are wondering where my accent is from, because you think I don't sound very French, you will be correct. I'm actually from Aotearoa, or New Zealand, as most people know it, which is a tiny little country. You can see it on the map there. But yeah, it's good to see everyone here. We've got India, Pakistan, Germany, Bangalore, Berlin, Bulgaria, the United States, New York City, Canada. Wow, Venezuela, France, the Netherlands. Oh, fantastic. Goedenavond to you in the Netherlands. I actually live in the Netherlands most of the time. All right. Whilst you're still going that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on to the stage our amazing guests that we have here today. So give me 1 second while I invite them onto the stage. We're going to start with Chuck from Replicated. We have Romain from GitGuardian, who is also coming in, and we have Adrian from Chainguard. Chuck D'Antonio, whereabouts are you tuning in from?
I am joining you from Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States today. Usually my usual spot is at home, just a little outside Boston, but today I find myself in a WeWork in downtown Boston.
There we are. And you can always tell who's in the WeWork based on the backgrounds that you have. If you have this lovely color of a booth, you are most likely at a WeWork. And Romain Jouhannet joins me. He is a colleague at GitGuardian. Romain, welcome. Whereabouts are you tuning in from, Romain?
So I'm currently I live in the Alps, so southeast of the country, and you can probably hear I'm from France. So I'm the one from France out of the 4 people here today.
Yeah, we have to have a French representative. GitGuardian is a French company. If you are new to hearing about us, and Adrian, whereabouts are you tuning in from?
I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm in my shed office, so I'm not in a WeWork today, but in a shed office.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what we've wanted to do is, obviously, we're going to be talking about self-hosted solutions or on-premise solutions, the challenges in deploying these, managing these, securing these, all the above. And what we tried to do is we tried to bring people in from various different backgrounds that understand that. So Chuck is going to come from Replicated, which is a company. Well, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to give the Replicated pitch. Chuck, can you give us a little rundown about what Replicated does and what you guys focus on?
Sure. What Replicated does is really help with this very domain, helping software vendors to get their software that has a modern architecture running in environments that are hosted and managed by their customers. I had seen this pain so much installing other people's software, delivering software to other folks. When I heard that Replicated even existed, I said, I knew I had to be there. And so I come at this problem from talking to, dozens of software vendors on a regular basis about, should we do this? How should we do this? What's a challenge? How do we solve those, et cetera? And super excited to share that information today.
Yeah. Fantastic. Romain, do you want to give a go at the GitGuardian pitch? You are the non-me GitGuardian representative here. So what are we doing here at GitGuardian? And what's your role?
So what are we doing? We're helping you to secure your code by finding secrets in your code. This is one of the things, and we do all the things. But my role at GitGuardian, I'm one of the product manager, and I fully focus on our self-hosted offering, because we have, probably most of you know our SaaS offering, right? But we also have our self-hosted offering. So that's what I'm focusing on. I also own some other areas in our SaaS offering, and just to tell you a little more about myself, I've got quite a lot of experience in the self-hosted kind of product. I've worked more in the telco space before, worked for F5, worked for Nokia. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Perfect. And last but not least, Adrian, you're coming from Chainguard. Chainguard is one of my favorite companies. I'm always looking at you. But for those that haven't heard of Chainguard, what is Chainguard up to, and what's your role there?
Yeah, so what Chainguard do is it's pretty simple at the minute. Basically, if you run containers, and who doesn't run containers, we provide container images with low to zero numbers of CVEs. So, you probably, if you run tools like Grite, Trivy, Sneak on your containers, you probably find all these CVEs and you're wondering what to do with them. Well, what you do is you come and talk to Chainguard, and we give you images with no CVEs.
Yeah, fantastic. We're and GitGuardian. We've worked with all of we are GitGuardian, but we've also worked with Replicated and Chainguard before. So we're big fans here. We're really excited that you guys could come join, because this is the reason why we put this webinar together was people that were looking at the pain points of this, that were wanting to understand more. So we thought, let's bring on the best people that we can and have a look at this issue. So just in case anyone here is new to the topic, self-hosted versus SaaS, self-hosted software is basically, software you're running and managing yourself. It's contained within, your own network, your own premises, rather than kind of using software in the cloud, which is a lot of what we're used to, right? These SaaS offerings. Now, self-hosted comes with its own set of challenges, its own advantages, and every kind of aspect. In maintenance, in security, in reliability, everything. Self-hosted, is a challenge for everyone. So we're actually going to come at this we're going to have some questions that are going to be talking about it from the vendor's point of view. We're also going to be looking at it from users and consumers' point of views. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here. And with that, we kind of have our first question that I'm going to give to the panel to start. And so, we probably are aware of a lot of the benefits that SaaS solutions offer, but on-premise solutions do offer a lot of benefits as well, but they come with their own challenges, some of which we just kind of talked about. Like, let's look at this first question from the vendor's point of view. Can you help us identify what are some of the core challenges that come with deploying on-premise solutions as people that manage these solutions, create these solutions as the vendors? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with Romain from GitGuardian. Romain, can you run us through what are some of the challenges, the unique challenges of kind of deploying softwares on-premise as a vendor?
Yeah, thank you, Max. So the first big challenge for me is really everything around troubleshooting. So it's very hard to access our customer environment. I mean, we basically don't have access to them, right? And then when something wrong happened, like the good old my dashboard is not working, something is not working properly, and then you get a support ticket from your customer, and then you just have that line. What do you do with that? You're like, You have no information, right? So that's really the challenge. Like, and then you end up having a lot of back and forth, emails, Zoom call. I'm sure a lot of you on the call have been, on those like unlimited like Zoom calls, with your vendors, wasting time, right? So this is one of the main challenges, troubleshooting. And then the other challenge, which is kind of linked to the first one, is visibility. Like when we ship our software to our customers, they become a black box, right? They run in their environment and we have no visibility. So it's hard to even know if the product is being used, right? Or if it's like sitting on the shelf somewhere, in the garage. So that's kind of the second one. And then I'm going to give you a couple more, which I find very interesting as well. It's obviously the security aspect. We've all experienced really recently, I don't know if you took the plane. I know Mac was stuck in Berlin recently with like the crosswalk issue, we all know about. So, you want to make sure when you ship your software, there is nothing wrong, it's secure. And there's no vulnerabilities. Your customer is not going to get breached or hacked, through your software. So that security is a big thing. And the last point is distribution, because I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, buying like floppy disk, 10 of those, and then putting one by one, in your computer to install whatever software or game. For me, it was more game back in the day in the 90s, but. So, like distribution is a challenge, right? How do you deliver securely your software without, any problem, and, make it easy to download and etc. Right? So those four really main challenge I see myself from my perspective.
Yeah, let's move along. Let's go to Adrian from Chainguard. From your perspective, because Chainguard images, are very often self-hosted. What are the challenges that you see for vendors in this space?
Yeah, I mean, so from our perspective, everybody like self-hosts and runs our stuff. Like we don't run the images for you; you run the images. One thing we do get is people will use our images in their products, which in turn run in somebody else's server, so we can even be like a step removed. Yeah, and as Romain says, like I think one of the major thing is how do you get insight into actually what's happening and what's going wrong, and like all the issues are so specific to each customer. That's another big thing, and you'll have a lot of back and forth trying to figure out what's actually happening and trying to get some way to recreate the problem. But yeah, that's just the way we work all the time.
Yeah, working in hard mode. Definitely. Yeah, I want to, Chuck, I want to come to you in a minute, but first I have a question for the audience that, while Chuck is going to answer for you to think about and to talk about. I want to know, those of you that are running self-hosted solutions or have tried to or past, what are the biggest challenges that you have faced with managing these self-hosted solutions? Let us know in the chat what you do. But before that, Chuck, from your perspective, what are the challenges from the vendor? And you come from an interesting perspective because you're continuously working with other vendors to deliver these solutions. So you not only have one person's perspective on this, I guess you have a very deep perspective on the challenges that their vendors face.
I'd say so. And one of the things that I think stands out most to me is that, and I want to pick up a little bit on the word that Romain used about distribution, right? Distribution sort of necessitates a different life cycle for the software that you're distributing. It's different than just sort of what you might be doing to bring it out and run it for somebody. And a big part of the reason you need a different life cycle is that you are inverting the control. Right, when in a SaaS-oriented solution, you have all the control. All the infrastructure. It's just one infrastructure, right? There's you say we deployed AKS and that's it. What the storage provider is, the network provider, all those things. When you cede that control over to your customer, in order for them to manage the solution, you are now having to deal with multiple Kubernetes distributions, multiple network and storage providers within there, different controls that they've put on their networks, all sorts of things that you just don't have when you host it yourself. So this loss of control is sort of the primary thing, and it sort of feeds all of the other sort of details around troubleshooting and visibility and all those things. And it does require a shift in mindset. That's one thing I noticed when I first started engaging with someone, is that they're thinking it's going to just be like this. And as they learn more from what their customers are doing, they realize, or that, or that, or that, or that.
Yeah.
And, on and on and on and on. The other side, of that loss of control is that sort of visibility and access that Romain was talking about. I need to be able to troubleshoot for you. I want to be able to fix for you because I potentially have the knowledge. And if I'm in a SaaS environment, I can just go and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
When I'm not, I need tools that help me gain a shared understanding with you right away, that potentially help me guide you towards solving without my help. And generally, I need the ability to help you help yourself. And that's an area where, you can use tooling to avoid all of that back and forth conversation that Romain was talking about, to get that common picture, to very quickly say, aha, I see what's going on. This is the thing you have to do. And ideally surface that before the customer even has to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, amazing. And, like, a really kind of looking at a lot of the challenges there. But yeah, still very interesting. Chuck, can you do me a favor? At the bottom of the page, you should see a button saying settings. Could you check to see if you're connected to your headphones or the computer mic, and swap it, just in case? Just because
set to my AirPods.
Do you want to try switching it to the computer?
Might work a little better. Sure. All right, I should be on the computer mic now. Is that doing any better?
A little bit better. Yep. We'll leave it.
I'll also move it a little closer to me.
No, yeah. Sorry. It was fine, but just for the best experience of it. And it's really interesting. The chat has really kind of taken on a couple of issues as well. Networking, kind of a hassle, as Nathan has said, and also the kind of observability and logs from their perspectives. Be able to kind of have that observability into it, and I think you kind of touched on that, Chuck. And also Romain, is like not having to jump on those calls, not having any idea of these black boxes that are coming. Now, there is a poll in there, and what I was curious about is who out there is running self-hosted solutions. So if you click on the bottom of the poll button, you can see who is actually running self-hosted. So we've got around about most people here kind of running those self-hosted solutions. So now I want to get into another kind of different question. We've talked about some challenges from the vendor's perspective, right? Needless to say, from the vendor's point of view, probably a little bit easier to manage it in the cloud than trying to manage software on other people's machines. So why on earth do we decide to do this? So let's have a look at what are the use cases that going on-prem actually makes sense, where we actually need to do this as vendors, from people and why do we do that? So let's go to Chainguard first, to Adrian. Adrian, why are we seeing, what are the use cases of what we need to go on-prem, and when that's the preferred choice?
Yeah, well, and if you're using Chainguard, you might not be on-prem, you might run in the cloud, but you'll be running our application. But we have users that are both running, in EKS, JKE, and on their own on-prem clusters. And I suspect several of them probably have both. And as I mentioned before, we have users that put it in the products that run on other people's clusters. So that's just how we work. One reason, I think the major reason that I think we're going to keep coming back to is regulation, right? People in regulated environments want to run their own on-prem clusters and control everything. One that might come up sometimes is about speed and availability. So if you're using a SaaS solution, that means going over the network, and that's potentially slow. And also you put yourself at risk of that vendor having an outage. So if it's a critical component, you might prefer to run it, on-prem, where, as well as controlling, getting it back up and running, you'll also have a faster network. But yeah, I think the vast majority of people we see doing on-prem are for regulatory reasons. So financial, health, defense, that sort of thing. And they're coming to us at Chainguard because of, they have those regulations. And those regulations often say things about CVEs. And talking to Chainguard can help them reduce those CVEs and achieve compliance. There is another thing that sometimes comes up is just about reducing costs. So the poster boy for that one at the minute is 37 Signals, who run Basecamp and Hey, and they wrote a big blog post about why they moved away from the cloud. And that was primarily for cost reasons.
Yeah. I saw a great meme the other day, and it was like, you can have $1 billion, but you have to spend 100 million in the next 24 hours. And someone was like, "Oh, easy, AWS." I was like, fair enough. Yeah, I got it. All right, let's continue on this. Let's go to Romain from GitGuardian. What are specific use cases that you see? Because we offer at GitGuardian, we offer a SaaS solution. And annoyingly, some people choose not to take it. They want an on-premise solution. But so why? Or, what are the specific reasons that we see that? And why is it a good choice in the end for them?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of the same at what Adrian said. Again, just to give you a bit more insight, GitGuardian customer who show self-hosted, there are big telco, financial, and public government, US or France, right? So it's exactly, for the reason Adrian said. And yeah, they just want the full control over the data because, at GitGuardian, we scan your code, right? We scan your code base. And even though in our SaaS version, we scan it, but we never keep a copy of your code, but still some customer would prefer avoiding that operation of cloning the code and scanning it. So they prefer to do that in their own environment. They really want to have the control, 100% control, on their processes, right? So yeah, compliance and control, I would say. This is really the two things in my own view.
Yeah, and Chuck, I'm gonna take it over to you. With what do you add? Do you agree with kind of what's being said? Do you have any specific scenarios, yourself that you've seen in your vast experience of why people choose to kind of go on this path?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly would echo both of the other panelists, right? I think the higher the regulatory burden, the more likely folks are going to want to manage on their own. They've demonstrated to a regulator that these are the exact controls they have in place for these exact things. Yeah. Number one, changing that is very hard. And number two, going through and making sure every SaaS vendor has all those exact same controls in place, also very hard. So I think the higher the regulatory burden generally is the first place that I see. So picking up on what Adrian said, and then picking up on Romain, the sensitivity of the data and the desire for control over the data, right? If I look at the types of vendors we work with most, it's really diverse, but development tools, security tools, and AI tooling and platforms tend to come to the top. And what I think all of those have in common is, some level of concern about the sensitivity of the data and, sort of trust in what can happen to it once it leaves the four firewalls of your organization, right? Everyone is concerned, regardless of what the terms of service say. GitGuardian scans the code and doesn't save it. OpenAI doesn't train based on what you send to the API. Right? These are all the terms of service say it very bluntly, but we all think, yeah, but what if? So I think that becomes a big thing, right? How being in control of your own destiny when it comes to a breach, whether it's of those terms of service or what would be much far, far more likely than any company breaching their terms of service, a breach of those systems. So I have to just echo the other two, really.
Yeah, and then just to add on something interesting as well, like 30% of our customer running our solution self-hosted are air gap, right? So imagine a room with like no doors, right? Like no connection. So it just shows also like the really importance of like being like isolated from the rest of the world in some cases. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Adrian's isolated from the air conditioning at the moment. But Chuck, what you're saying there is funny. The chat was kind of like agreeing with you. I don't know who was first, but you and Nathan were kind of like talking about the same, the same real points there. It's controlling your data, and I love what you say about OpenAI and all of that, because I mean, OpenAI says that they don't use your data to train it, but to me, wouldn't that be the most valuable data that OpenAI could possibly get? So I can't imagine why they wouldn't do that. So yeah. Anyway, I think we're all agreeing that that this, but and even if they don't, it's about knowing that, about having confidence on it. And I think one other thing is that some companies may not be aware of where their data is actually going. Like it may, it could be in logs in different places. You're putting a lot of trust into them, and the internet runs on trust in a lot of ways. But we have to verify things, and having on-prem is a great way. So the audience, the question is up there. Why do you choose on-prem? If you have any other options, or other topics that you have, what have you chosen to take on-prem? Why kind of take on the responsibility of maintaining that? Let us know in the chat. But we've talked about observability. We've talked about the availability and the reasons why. Let's talk about security. What are the unique challenges around kind of security and the complexities around the on-prem deployment? Sorry, I've actually got ahead of myself on this. We're going to talk about scalability of the on-prem experience. I got ahead of my notes in there, but let's dive into the complexity of on-prem deployments a little bit more. So you've all successfully kind of built and maintained self-hosted kind of platforms in various ways. So let's talk about deployment in here. How do we kind of help manage, kind of secure and scale the onboard experience? Chuck, I'm actually going to go to you first on this. What are your kind of thoughts of having scalable on-prem experiences?
I think the best thing to do is to turn to someone who already knows a lot about it to help you out. But I might just be a little biased about that one. So, when I think about what that means, right, seriously, there's some challenges to doing it well, right? You need to make sure you've got a list of prerequisites, for example, before your customer tries to install. I don't know about the other panelists or the people who are here watching today and participating, but I don't follow all of those. Right, I go and I just try, and then I sort it out later. Well, that can reflect upon you as the software vendor in a bad way, right? So doing things up front to validate that those prerequisites are in place as part of your install starts to avoid a lot of challenges. That visibility that we talked about earlier around both observing what they're doing with your software, not things like how much memory is it using and all those operational things that you deliberately don't have to worry about anymore because they're running it for you. But things like, are they using these new features? Are they nearing their license limits? Are they out of date in which version they're running? And then, of course, all the things you need to do to troubleshoot and support. Those are, things that SaaS makes really easy. And what we try at Replicated, and what I think you should try to do, whether you work with us or not, is try to get as close to the SaaS experience on those types of things as possible. And sort of the last point I wanted to make is that your customers are going to be in very different places. They're going to have different expectations about what it means to install your software, especially, we work with people whose software uses Kubernetes as the runtime environment. You have people who are deploying Kubernetes with really, they have a huge platform team with really strong opinions about what it means to get running in that environment and what they do to protect that environment. And then you have teams that are like, oh, Kubernetes, I heard of that once. And you need to be able to be installed by all of those types of people. And so it's really important to be able to give an install, you're probably not giving just one install experience. You're probably giving multiple install experiences across there. And again, that's why we like to go out and be able to offer that for you, because you want to go out and produce, if I look at my panelists here, amazing container images or fantastic, source code security tooling, you don't want to worry about distribution and installation, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of problems there to solve.
All right, Chuck, I'm going to put you under the hot seat now, right? Because as you probably know, GitGuardian uses replicated on there. So I'm going to turn here to Romain. Is Chuck full of crap? How does that really, and Romain, let's talk about how you use replicated. So I'm going to assume that your answer to this question is going to involve replicated in some way of how that happens. So I want you to kind of talk about how does GitGuardian kind of deliver secure and scalable on-prem experience using replicated? Does it work, or is Chuck talking nonsense?
Well, spoiler alert, it does work.
So at least I'm not talking nonsense.
Imagine if he said no. I was prepared. I was prepared with the mute button. I didn't want to. But anyway, continue, Romain.
That's the right time for me to ask Chuck like this feature request I asked like a while ago. No, but I mean, at GitGuardian, we've partnered with Replicated since day one, right? Because, believe it or not, or self-hosted, it's there since maybe 2021. I mean, I wasn't working for GitGuardian at that time, but almost day one, we chose to give that option for our customer, right? And right off the bat, we work with Replicated. So they help us in many ways. Remember those floppy drive I was telling you about? They help us with that, right? We didn't have to develop authentication, for system for our customers to download our software. They also help us with the packaging. Same, we didn't have to develop all of the tooling around that. They really help in all the different fronts, and I want to also talk about troubleshooting. My special, kid who has a lot of problem with this is again the first challenge, right? And one thing what we're trying to do with regarding that challenge is first of all, my goal is our customer are able to self troubleshoot, right? And this is without replicated. This is the first goal. If I can receive a ticket from a customer and they can help themselves, great. But in the case, they need help, this is where replicated provide also great toolings to package the logs in a zip file, and they have a kind of a quick kind of one-click button, to send the logs directly to us. Obviously, if you're not in air gap, right? So they provide a lot of tooling around that, which really help us on the day-to-day and really help us to focus on our business, right? Finding secret. Because building self-hosted solution is not our business. This is Chuck's business, right? So yeah. It's really key, right there. And the last point is to talk about Chainguard, because we also, spoiler alert, we do use Chainguard as well to secure our images we ship to our customers. And it really helps us to ship our software with no vulnerabilities. We actually have very strong requirements for some of our customers to have no high and no critical CVEs, right? And this is stuff to accomplish by yourself, to be very honest.
Yeah. Chuck, I want to come back to you for a minute, because we've had a kind of talk in the chat there that's talking about kind of backups, and I really can resonate with this. It wasn't in my notes, but that is something that SaaS does really well, backups. How are you seeing people manage that backups, that backup kind of issue? Meaning that with SaaS you can kind of just relax, and know that your cloud's there. It's there, right?
Right. You talked with someone like me during the sales process, and they told you how they back it up, and you think it's great. Obviously in this circumstance, as the vendor, you can't guarantee that customer is doing backups, and yet they're probably going to come to you and say, we lost all our data because it's your system, right? And especially if they lost all their data because of, not that I'm saying anyone here who's a software vendor has defects in their software, but especially if they lost all their data because of something in your code. So what we do is we facilitate orchestrating the backup. Now that your customer still has to figure out where they're going to put it, but we facilitate annotating the various workloads to say, this is how you back me up. And then the customer just has to provide that destination. And you as the software vendor, the way you work with us, you have orchestrated, okay, this is how we get the backup into that spot. And I think that, again, trying to stay a little bit agnostic here, that is a problem you have to solve for. You know how to back up your software. Your customer knows how to put things where they put backups. And you have to be able to bridge that gap with them, regardless of how you do it.
Yeah. I mean, my next question was going to be, why is that hard? But I think you illustrated that perfectly just in your last couple of points there. Part of having a good experience with on-prem is performance, and having performance from that. So I want to go over to kind of Adrian now. What do you kind of think about the performance issues on having a solid experience on deploying SaaS, and what are some of the challenges around maintaining quality performance and leaks and things like that?
Yeah, I don't know too much about. Oh, I see. We jumped to question. Okay. Yeah. So, I guess when you're running, I guess I'm thinking more from the perspective of a user running on-prem as opposed to a user where most of our DevOps people are probably more used to running on the cloud. Is that with regards to performance, people tend to spin up. You put it in auto-scaling group and forget about it. Or you might even increase the instance size, something like that. But if you're on-prem, this suddenly becomes a lot more serious, right? Because eventually you need to buy a new server, and that's going to cost. There's also a time lag between how long it takes to get those new servers installed and so on. So having good performance can be much more critical in an on-prem situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go got another poll down there that I'm just about to release in here, and I want to talk about what's your preference, self-hosted versus SaaS for the audience there. Do you prefer? And I guess why is that published poll? There we are. Now we're published. What's your preference? And this is kind of coming from the fact that if you have a vendor that's offering you both solutions, do you prefer to go self-hosted, or do you prefer to opt for the SaaS kind of easy mode option from? I shouldn't really call it that, but like this yeah. Let me know what you think from that. Now, we've talked about it, that both kind of SaaS and on-prem, it has their solutions. And whilst this poll is going, can the two kind of coexist with each other? What's the best practices from SaaS that we can kind of deliver into that on-premise situation? How can the two kind of coexist? So Romain, I'm going to start with you for first. Can the two coexist?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to talk about the vendor perspective again here. What we do, actually, we use our SaaS. We never release a new feature on our self-hosted version of the bat. We always release it on the SaaS, make sure it works fine. And, if you have issues, you can quickly, fix those issues. And then, we give ourselves a buffer period between the time we release that feature we package it, right, for our self-hosted customers. And then that really gives us, ease of mind, right? Because you really don't want to ship a hot fix to your self-hosted customer every 2 days or whatsoever, right? So quality is key. And I think they coexist very well because sometimes the requirements, the very strong requirements of self-hosted solution push the quality on both, right, on the SaaS and on self-hosted. So it's a kind of complement each other in that way, right? In our case, it really forces us to build a lot of automation to really test our code in a different manner, different ways to make sure it's working well, right? So this is one of the things, and I just want to add a couple more things. The security piece of it as well, having the compliance requirements from those public FedRAMP. I know somebody mentioned FedRAMP, on the call, make us improve our security of our self-hosted or images, but because we share the same code at GitGuardian between our SaaS and self-hosted, then all the security improvement we do on our self-hosted benefit to your SaaS customers, right? So overall, everybody is more secure and happy, right? So I feel like they really coexist very well together, at least at GitGuardian, I would say.
Yeah. Now, Chuck, kind of like over to you and your experience. Now, I mean, this is interesting because you specialized in self-hosted. Should SaaS go away, or should they continue to kind of live together?
Well, as a certain type of stakeholder in Replicated, I'd love it if SaaS went away. But realistically, what I want to see is that software vendors support their customers and meet their customers where they are. And for many customers, meeting them where they are is going to be getting them into your SaaS hands-off approach where you handle all these types of details that we've been talking about here today. But for many other customers, they're going to have strong opinions about how you do those things. It's absolutely critical to have a self-hosted option for them. The other thing that I think we've noticed is that those customers tend to be, they tend to stick with you longer. They tend to be higher revenue. There's I don't know where the causality is in all these relationships, but you do tend to have longer, deeper, more lucrative relationships with your self-hosted customers than potentially with your SaaS customers. And I think that's really important, a really important type of thing for a software company to be thinking about. And I want to just echo what Romain was saying. Nearly every change you make to get better for self-hosted beyond the initial work you do to make sure you can install and things like that is going to apply to both. You're going to have a better picture. We joke about, a lot of times at Replicated, we joke about the experience people have the first time they're asked to install on OpenShift. When someone is doing something self-hosted and they're using OpenShift, OpenShift has so many security controls in place by default that you probably don't have on the cluster you use for SaaS. Invariably, you're going to have a whole bunch of things where OpenShift is going to say, nope. Well, guess what? Changing all of those things doesn't just mean you now run in your customer's OpenShift. It also means you've improved your security posture in the SaaS that you run. So I just think across the board, you just have a really nice cycle, both in terms of, as Romain said, the quality of your software and the security of your software. And, in terms of the value that you can bring to each other when you have, you and your customer, when you have both of these types of models.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to fire some questions off the bow now in true kind of Mackenzie unprepared fashion. But I'm going to go over to Adrian here. I want to ask you a question here, and it's going to be an absolute question, but I'm hoping you'll be able to kind of talk about it. Is on-prem more secure, or is on-prem always secure? Because you coming from security point of view, is it's on-prem, is it secure? Is there any truth to that premise?
Well, I mean, it depends is always the answer. I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no, like if you're using SaaS, then you've made it somebody else's problem, and they're probably in a better place to address security concerns and run infrastructure and do everything than you are. As a company, I believe in focusing on your core competencies, and if you can pay somebody else to take care of the rest, do it. Google are fantastic about keeping up to date with Kubernetes releases. You are probably not. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to go wrong, and it's possibly going to have security hole. That's my hot take there.
Yeah. No, great hot take. All right, I'm gonna kind of talk about. I'm gonna introduce something else here. Romain, what we talk about a lot about the shared responsibility in cloud and SaaS, things like that. Is there a shared responsibility in an on-prem deployment, or is it sole responsibility on one person or another?
Yeah, I mean, but back to what Adrian said, this is really the challenge, right? Because you can deliver your vendor software with no CV, for example, secure way, and have the best mechanism to authenticate your software, right? You can do that. But then if your customer leave a firewall open, to the outside, well, I mean, nothing you can do about it, right? Like it's, that's why there is a lot on us, and there's a lot on them too, right? Like we don't control the environment, but they don't control the software. So you really have to work together to make it, secure. That's why back to what Adrian said, I fully agree. I mean, if I had to choose, I would go SaaS, unless you have no choice because of those reasons we were talking about, compliance. You don't want your data out, right? Things like that. But otherwise, it's so much easier, right? Like, why would I store my my photos on my hardware at home? I mean, so much easier to just have it stored somewhere on a cloud whatever service, right? So I don't have to deal with all the secure aspect of it, right? They deal with it. I pay $2 a month and I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, but yeah.
Yeah. No, well, look, it's been a fantastic webinar. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot myself, and I've had a lot of fun. If you haven't, now's the time, audience. Do you have any final questions for our panelists that you want to kind of shoot off before we start closing up this webinar? But it has been great. I want to give a shout out to I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but Nathan, you've really participated in the chat, and there will be a prize coming your way. But thank you for participating, and the questions that added a lot of value here. Just while we're waiting to see if any more questions come through, I do want to give a huge shout out for the panelists that have come here. We tried to bring this from different perspectives: security, reliability and deployment, and also from the perspectives of GitGuardian. And I think that it works really well. And I wanted to thank you. I got mixed up in my notes once or twice there, but you didn't even know, because our panelists are so good that they just scrolled through that, and you don't even know that I made mistakes. So that's what it's like working with professionals. But it will be the last time I make that mistake, because if you've been following us for a while, I've been doing webinars with GitGuardian every single month for about 4 years. And today, I'm afraid, is the last time I will ever have a webinar with all of you, my good friends. I am unfortunately leaving GitGuardian after a while for some new adventures. So this will be my last webinar, but I have enjoyed spending these afternoons once a month with all of you for a long time. We've had some great moments. We've had some absolutely catastrophe webinars as well. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. But today was not one of them. So it's all good. So thank you all for coming to join on my last webinar. The webinars will continue. So, you will get emails again saying, hey, come to my webinar. They'll be hosted by someone else. But thank you all for joining the GitGuardian webinar. Thanks again to our panelists, and I'm wishing you all a fantastic Wednesday evening or day, depending on the world you are. And I'm hopeful that I will see you again somewhere else on some webinar in the future. Thanks, everyone. Fantastic to be here, and have a great day.